Hey, it's Professor Gould. This next section is going to be nice and short. We need to talk about vacuoles. So we mentioned these at the very beginning. A vacuole is a large storage sac. It's got a membrane, a phospholipid bilayer, and it is part of the cytoplasm of a cell. A lot of cells, such as protists, like this paramecium, make a food vacuole when they do endocytosis or phagocytosis to engulf a particle of food. They are going to reach out. You remember, they reach out the plasma membrane, they engulf the food particle, bring it into the cell, pinch off that thing, and that's going to be a vacuole. There are also vacuoles in some organisms, like this paramecium again, that are more permanent. This is a contractile vacuole. Paramecia live in the water, and as such, sometimes they get too much water inside the cell. This is a single-celled organism. So the vacuole fills up with water, and then they can contract it to expel excess water from the inside of the cell. Okay, so that's a way that they can control the amount of fluid inside the cell. Okay, so that's a contractile vacuole. So we've got food vacuoles as a result of phagocytosis, contractile vacuoles to control fluid volume, and then plants have what we call a central vacuole. This is kind of a cool electron micrograph, of a plant cell, and you can see these are the chloroplasts. Isn't that neat? Okay. But the central vacuole, you can see it's taking up a huge amount of space. A lot of plants use these to store nutrients. After plants have made glucose, for example, which you remember is a molecule that plants use to store energy for later, they can store that in a vacuole. The vacuole is also going to absorb water and provide pressure against the cell wall. You remember that plant cells have a cell wall made out of cellulose. That cell wall, it's only strong and stiff. It's partly because of the cellulose, but also because of the internal pressure of fluid pushing on that cell wall. So that central vacuole helps to maintain that volume of fluid. Flowers have pigments within that central vacuole. Some plants contain poisons that they make to prevent themselves from being eaten by insects. So nicotine is a plant toxin that plants made to stop insects from eating them. Caffeine is another. It is actually a toxin. Yes, in very small doses, it's a stimulant and, the best thing in the whole wide world. But you can kill yourself with a caffeine overdose. You can't actually do that by drinking caffeine. You have to take pure caffeine. But anyway, if you're a little tiny insect, eating caffeine can sometimes kill you. So these are things that plants make to prevent themselves from being eaten by insects. It's stored in a central vacuole. Unfortunately for the plants, the insects are also evolving. So just as the plant evolves a toxin, the insects are able to evolve a response and an immunity to that toxin. It's a constant battle between plants and insects. All right. You know what? I'm just going to add this one last thing on this, and that is chloroplast. This is the organelle that is only found in plants, in plant cells, and some protists. Okay, plants and protists, photosynthetic organisms, but remember, not photosynthetic bacteria or archaea, because you, of course, remember they don't have organelles. They, inside the chloroplast, light energy, along with water and CO2, is used to make sugars. The chloroplast has a double membrane, much like the mitochondria, and the fluid inside the chloroplast is called stroma. Okay, so just like the fluid inside the eukaryotic cell is called the cytosol, the stroma is the fluid inside the chloroplast. The little stacks of membrane inside the membrane of the chloroplast are called grana. Granum is the singular, grana is plural. These are these little stacks. And we will come back to this later when we talk about photosynthesis. We're going to go into photosynthesis in a lot of detail. It's a really cool thing. Anyway, so there's the chloroplasts. So vacuoles storing sugars that get made in chloroplasts.